Holy crap, guys. Y'all know how I don't usually do more than one video per day, but this was such a big news that just dropped that I just had to talk about. It's really huge, especially for a Halo fan like myself. Well, what I mean about that? Well, there's a new report by Bloomberg, but before we get into that, I want to bring your attention to Apex Gaming PCs once again. If you're interested in their gaming PCs, I'll have a link down in the description below, as I will in every single video going forward. So if you're interested in buying a gaming PC from them, link down in the description below. Now then, let's get back to the video in hand. Now let's start off the Bloomberg report by saying Microsoft Corporation said it's going to keep making new games in the popular Halo series at 343 despite rumors to the contrary, but after a leadership overhaul, massive layoffs, and a host of big changes, the alpha is all of them starting from scratch. The Redmond, Washington-based 343 released the latest game Halo Infinite in December 2021. To widespread critical acclaim, it was seen as a redemption story for a title that suffered multiple delays, endless development problems, and merry-go-round of creative leads. Yeah, the launch was really great, but then everything fell apart after that. But in the months that followed, fans turned against the game and complained about the said roadmap and the slow rollout of features that had been expected on day one. At the same time, 343 was seemingly losing staff by the week and went through a major leadership change last fall that led to some employees to brace for a complete reorganization. I'd say it was probably they should have done it a while ago, because for years, I'd say 343 has been mismanaged for so long. Quite possibly ever since they took over, to be quite honest with you. Because, in all of their games that 343 has made so far, there's just something that felt missing in terms of their games. They hit so close. Halo Infinite the closest. It should have been an easy win, like I said before, but mismanagement kind of led to the downfall of it. Let's be real here. Anyway, continuing. The axe fell in mid-January when Microsoft announced mass layoffs, and 343 was hit hard. When Microsoft declined to provide specific figures, at least 95 people have lost their jobs. So the previous number was 130, but that was more speculation though. According to a spreadsheet of affected employees reviewed by Bloomberg, the list named dozens of veterans, including top directors and contractors upon which the study heavily relied on. Those temporary employees were given just a few days warning before their contracts came to an end. According to people familiar with the process, as could not be identified because they weren't authorized to speak publicly. The cuts led to rumors that 343 would farm out development of the Halo series to other gaming companies. Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, said in an interview that 343 will continue as the internal developer for Halo in the home of it. Internally, Booty has assured 343 even as they work with outside partners and outsourcing houses, they will remain in charge. So basically, the rumor is true, seemingly that we could be getting games from other studios, but 343 would still be in charge. Yeah, that's not surprising. Questions remain, however, the state of the Halo franchise as the studio is hollowed out and making big changes to how it makes games. Chief among them is a pivot to a new engine. The suite of tools and tech used to make video games, the studio's own engine, public exclusive space, has been one of the biggest points of contention over the past 2 decades. Based largely on old code from the 90s and early 2000s, it's buggy and very difficult to use, has been the source of headaches for some devs on Halo Infinite. People familiar with the development said, similar multiplayer modes are nearly finished, such as Extraction and Assault, both popular in previous games, have yet to be released, in part because of issues involving the engine, they said. Well, that's kind of why they were supposed to spend the extra time to kind of overhaul the engine, because, let's be real here, Slipspace is not a brand new engine, even though it was labeled as that. That's not the case. It's just a largely changed overhaul of Blam, because it still has code from the older Halo games in the engine itself, as people have dug into the engine and discovered, and has brought to light. So it's kind of no secret if the engine that gave problems during previous Halo games would still give them problems with Halo Infinite. So if it is indeed truly the case they are actually switching to Unreal, I know there's been rumors saying they're not. It's been all over the place with that, but hey, that's kind of how rumors go and all that. Kind of take a grain of salt, but considering it's Jason Schreier, I intend to believe this, because he's been very, very credible when it comes to breaking news stories. Like I said at the beginning of the video, like him or not, he does a good job when it comes to actually exposing things in the gaming industry. There's delays or whatnot. I remember him getting death threats over when No Man's Sky got delayed, so he's very credible in the industry. Anyway, to wrap this up, At several points over the past decade, management has through switching Epic Games Inc.'s popular Unreal Engine, but it wasn't until late last year, when previous studio head Bonnie and engine lead David Berger departed and Pierre Hines took over, that firm finally decided to pivot to Unreal. The switch will start with a new game code, codenamed Tataka. According to people familiar with the plans, the project, which Through is developing alongside Serendipity, it started as a battle royale, but may evolve in different directions. The people said future games in the series will also explore using Unreal, which may make development easier, although internal skeptics are worried that the switch may have a negative impact on the way Halo games feel to play. A Microsoft spokesperson declined to comment on issues at the engine or on the company's plans to pivot to Unreal Engine. So, Tataka, which was, the long-rumored battle royale that we've talked about before on this channel, so now it's possibly going to be a brand new game as a whole. So battle royale would seemingly just be like a mode within this new game. That's interesting. I wonder how that's going to work, so kind of very interesting. Anyway, continuing. Since Halo Infinite was released, fans have assumed that in addition to new modes, Through was working on new story content, but that wasn't the case. According to people familiar with the situation, devs were making prototypes in the Unreal Engine and pitching ideas for new Halo games rather than working on new missions. Many of those devs were laid off this month, and the company isn't actively working on new story content. The people said a spokesperson declined to comment. In the eyes of some observers and former employees, the organization was a long time coming. The studio, which was founded in 2007 to inherit Halo after Microsoft parted ways with Bungie, has struggled through many challenges, including the release of several polarizing games. Patrick Wren, a former 3D designer, said on Twitter, I talked about him, that job cuts in the state of the Halo franchise overall as a result of incompetent leadership up top during Halo of its development led to massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be, and I firmly believe it. I'd say it's pretty evident when you actually look at everything that's happened. It's pretty evident. Anyway, Microsoft once promised that Halo Infinite would be the start of the next 10 years of Halo, but its recent moves point to a shorter-term vision. In an email to staff following the layoffs, Hines wrote, the current plan for 3 is to support a robust live offering for Halo Infinite and its forge-level creator and greenlight our new tech stack for future games while also bringing Halo to more players through more platforms than ever before. Who knows what that means, but that could mean really anything with that whole, more platforms. But yeah. So it's like they're gonna reboot the whole studio, which kind of makes sense though, because it's been a mess for a very long time. And the reports saying polarizing, yeah, that's putting it kind of lightly, as the community has been split and divided for so freaking long. But maybe it sounds like this is a long time coming, and it's what the franchise has needed for a very long time. Let's be kind of real here. Now for a reboot of the entire series, apparently headlines were saying, wow, I wonder what kind of reboot they're going for. I assume rebooting the game and changing it, but I assumingly keeping the IP like what it's always been. But wow, what a major news. Wow, I'm kind of speechless right now. Damn. You know what sucks? This all could have been avoided. If competent leadership were at the helm for Halo Infinite. But man, it's really surreal that it's kind of come to this. But like I said before, it could have been avoided so easily if competent leadership who knew what the hell they were doing were at the helm. But here we are. This is where we are at the end of the day. So wow, it's gonna be interesting to see where things go. But as for Tataka being turned into a brand new game, I wonder how that's gonna. How that's gonna be though. And in terms of story content being prototyped and all that for new games instead, then wonder why the website said campaigns. Then was that referring to the multiplayer story content? If that's the case, I kind of wish they would have been more specific about it in terms of seasonal story stuff. But because based on campaigns, you would be thinking actual brand new story campaigns, especially with that Halo Endless trademark that Microsoft registered, what was it, a year or two ago? But at the end of the day, though, this is kind of where the series is right now, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens now. I guess at this point, only time will tell, because if it's true about switching to Unreal, hey, if it works out for the studio and all that, I'm all for it, because, the less stress that the actual developers have, the better, and and perhaps it could make games come out quicker. So as gaming development is much more complicated, and nowadays with much more blow and everything else. But time will tell what will come from this. So who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see until 343 kind of speaks up about it, But considering this Jason Schreier, like I said, I'm inclined to believe this because he's very credible when it comes to reporting on breaking news. So because he does good work. So if you remember, he actually did an article like around the time Halo Infinite came out. Funny enough, if you remember, right, about a development, like saying how development of the campaign was like 2/3 of it was cut. Which when you play the final game, it kind of makes sense why some things end up the way they did in the campaign because of that reason. But I think that's all I gotta really say at this point. But wow, man, who knows what's gonna happen now? So especially in terms of like what kind of reboot are they doing? Is it gonna be like a complete overhaul or whatnot, or is it gonna be just like a changing things and kind of making like the story like the lore and everything else the same, kind of like how Doom 2016 was, or the new God of Wars that came out for the PS4 and 5. If we get if the kind of reboot is like that, I'm all for it because I know those two games are like critically well received. Like, and in the God of War case, the first God of War game that came out in 2018 was reviewed for Game of the Year. So we get that kind of reboot for Halo. Sign me up. So I guess time will tell. But like I keep saying, but man, wow. I think that's all I kind of really said at this point. I'm just surprised that it's come to this long before like I said, this was needed for a very long time. And unfortunately it's come to this, but it is what it is. So anyway, that's all I gotta really say on this. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, hit the like button and consider hitting that sub button so you do not miss any more videos. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.